You're watching KLTX, Channel 15, serving the city of Lufkin.
Today on Screen It or Stream It. What's wrong?
I can't quite put my finger on it, but something's fishy.
Aquaman is rated PG-13 for sequences of sci-fi violence and action and for some language.
It's the story of Arthur Curry, aka Aquaman.
Half human, half Atlantean, Arthur discovers that he is the heir to the underwater kingdom of Atlantis. But does he have what it takes to lead his people and become king?
That's all? I thought for sure he'd have to save the world while he's at it.
Okay, yeah. On his adventure through the underwater world of the seven seas, they also have to save the world.
I knew it!
So, what are we going to rate this one?
We decided that Aquaman is a good movie.
Alright, so DC's at it again. We got another DC superhero movie that have not been the highest quality of like, with the exception of Wonder Woman. I did really enjoy
I loved it. It was like the shining star of their whole mess that was attempted like box office bonanzas.
So we got a little bit of Aquaman and Justice League, and
which was surprisingly good considering their track record.
I thought Justice League was pretty okay.
I liked it. It's pretty okay.
It's not really villain. Steppenwolf was weak.
Yeah, well, and the CGI was terrible for the villain. You didn't need that.
We all agree.
But not really a whole lot of high hopes when you bring Aquaman to the screen, which is not necessarily a beloved character, not the way a Batman or a Superman or a Wonder Woman is. And you throw that in, compiled with a history of mediocre to not so good movies. And to me, this one really stood out. I don't know if it was even better because of the previous failures, but I really, really enjoyed this movie.
Well, it does kind of lower your expectations, but that's, that is what it is. I don't know. Because of Wonder Woman and Justice League, my expectations were raised a little, and it delivers. It's fun. If you like superhero movies, origin stories, hey, it works.
Well, being a longtime comic book fan, just a movie about Aquaman and these DC movies, I had zero expectations going in. I was like, I need to watch this movie so we can talk about it on the show, but I was kind of dreading it, and really just hit it out of the park for me. I don't know if it's because my expectations were so low, but I think it might actually be a decent movie.
No, I think it is a decent movie. First of all, it has a great cast.
It really does. Star-studded, great cast.
So put aside the main. So Jason Momoa and Amber Heard play like the two main characters. I saw her in the trailer, Nicole Kidman, but I wasn't sure it was actually her until the movie started. And I'm like, oh my God, it's Nicole Kidman. It's just so weird that she pops up in a superhero movie like that. And then Willem Dafoe shows up, and then Dolph Lundgren shows up, and the guy that's the villain that I can never think of his name,
Patrick Wilson.
Yeah, and I was like, wow, like that's some serious star power behind it. But then if you go back to Jason Momoa, like he doesn't look like what I think Aquaman looks like.
Not at all.
He doesn't look like what Aquaman is supposed to look like in my head.
Not from the drawings I've seen either.
After watching that movie, I don't think you could have picked a more perfect person to fit their Aquaman that they put on the screen.
I've never found Jason Momoa very charismatic to begin with, but in this, I just wanted to keep watching. I'm ready for Aquaman 2.
Well, yeah, he is kind of, I don't know, stiff or something in his delivery. He's not necessarily personable, but this movie, Aquaman's kind of a sarcastic and kind of, he's just kind of a guy, let's just go with the flow type guy, and which is really the
kind of a surfer kind of guy.
Yeah, and it kind of goes with this whole thing, you know, because like the world's coming to an end, we got to save the world, and he's like, let's just go with it, and it really works there, and his personality kind of comes through, and it just totally works for me. So I thought that was great. So you start with a great cast. The story itself was pretty good. I didn't think it was a great story. We got a little bit of an origin story in the beginning, and we've gotten so many origin stories that people just hate them as like, not an origin story. But I thought they did a really good with that because it was enough origin story that you knew where he came from, but it wasn't 3/4 of the movie. It was 8-10 minutes of here's how he becomes Aquaman and let's go.
And it was a lot less about him and more about his parents in the origin story too, which I think helps.
That's true. There were a lot of like conflicted things, but not conflicted. As I was watching this, I always try to think of something. What's going to be the streaming something that's like this? There were so many different things that came to mind, like they borrowed a little bit of Indiana Jones, and then they borrowed a little bit of, every superhero origin story, and kind of mixed some of these things up, and actually had a really good soundtrack. I really enjoyed the music. To me, superhero movies have like the generic like epic thing going, which I like, but I've heard it now so many times, it's...
Well, it did. They had So the story takes place way more of it in Atlantis than I thought would. Like I figured it would be mostly, on Earth because that's easier, and it'd be a little bit of Atlantis. But there was a lot of Atlantis. But you have that, and then you have Earth. But you get these, like Atlantis is this underwater kingdom, and it's really beautiful, and it's kind of old and what you would imagine, something that's been underwater for thousands of years. But it's really neat. This sunken kingdom, right? But then they come back to Earth and they go to Italy, they go to the desert, and you get all these neat settings, and it really does, like when in the desert and they're trying to find this clue, it does feel like Indiana Jones.
It really did.
I was like, oh man. And again,
in a good way.
Yeah, in a good way. And you've got that charismatic, like the guy, like Jason Momoa does a really good job of being that guy that needs to be there for the Indiana Jones. And then there was the scene at the end, or not towards the end, where they're being attacked by the trench creatures. And that felt very pitch black to me, like the little swoopy creatures that would come in. And before that, there was the all the like tech, and the underwater city felt very like Fifth Element to me. And you got kind of this mix of movies, but those are all really good movies. And if you're going to steal from and borrow from and mix that together, I thought it was great.
And that mix is one of the things I like about the movie. With the way that Justice League went, they may have been thinking, this might be our one chance with Aquaman. Let's throw in as much as we can. There were dinosaurs in this movie. Like straight up dinosaurs.
And there was Journey to the Center of the Earth, and then it just had so much wrapped up into it, which normally I would think so many different influences would have like just made it feel like a mismatch of nothing.
But it made it feel like an adventure.
But
things
it
are
worked.
happening.
Yeah.
People are going places. And
well, that takes me to a couple things I didn't like. I did miss the mark a little bit.
Okay.
And that was, first of all, the story I didn't think was that great. Like, I mean, it wasn't super original for as original as it was. I didn't think that, again, and we made fun of this in the opening, but you got to save the world. And we talked about this before. Like, you don't always have to be saving the world. Although his reluctance to do so, he just kind of, I think helped there.
Well, he definitely wanted to put a stop to the fighting, but yeah, he didn't want to be the iconic figure. He just wanted to stop.
There were two main things that stuck out to me that just kind of drove me crazy. One of them is, and it's a DC thing, and I feel like DC's behind Marvel, and they feel the behind Marvel. And every movie has felt like, let's just shove everything, like you said, to the forefront and get it out there as quick as we can. And with Aquaman, to me, there was two villains, and there doesn't need to be two villains. I don't think
There really were.
Unless they're like a villain and an assistant, like most of the time you don't need two villains, especially in the first movie. You need time and the ability to ramp things up. And maybe, like you said, maybe like this is our one shot at Aquaman, let's just go for it. But they didn't need the Atlanteans and Manta. And when you have the first movie and an origin story of Aquaman, then you have the Atlanteans, which you also have to set up as a villain. Yeah. Then you've got Black Manta, which you have to set up, and it's just too much to set all of them up. And so what happens is some of that gets thrown away.
Yeah.
And even though the movie's 2 hours and something, like I thought they did
23.
I thought they did a really good job of the Atlanteans, and I thought they did a good job of Aquaman, but I really felt like Black Manta was just kind of He just kind of felt thrown in there. He did his little part, and then he was gone.
You have to sell toys.
Buy our toys.
That's another DC thing that they like to do.
They had like the cookie cutter. Like, here, we can easily make him have a reason. Here it is. He's got a reason.
And
well, it was a good reason, to be fair.
So that I did not like that. I don't like the giant scale again, trying to save the world, and just everything was just too much, too fast. And the other thing I didn't like, and it's actually one of the things I did like and I didn't, and that was the CGI. So some of the underwater stuff that you know is CGI was great. You're like, oh wow, look at that! Oh, look at this, beautiful. But then some of the movements underwater, and when they had to move too fast, and it was like, ooh, no, that's not good.
The first time someone jumped off a pier in the movie.
Oh yeah, and it was that beautiful,
it was like,
way too high art.
And then waits. He's like, whoa, how did you do that?
Well, something else, like everything, the look of stuff makes sense when they're in Atlantis. When you take it out and put it in the real world,
it looks ridiculous.
It looks wrong. It doesn't make sense anymore.
Yeah, it does.
But yeah, so I would say overall, though, even those couple of nitpicks, I enjoyed this. This is one of my favorite movies that we saw all year long, which is not that high of praise, actually, but I really did enjoy it. It was a lot of fun, and it's up there with Wonder Woman. I'm not sure which is my favorite of the current DC movies, but I would definitely put it up there with those.
Yeah, I'd have a hard time picking. I might lean toward Wonder Woman just because Gal Gadot.
It's nice to do something that's different for James Wan, because he's known for scary movies. He did Saw and he did Insidious.
How many like surprise explosions did they? It was like 3 or 4, like where there's this moment happening and then boom, we're doing something else now.
My daughter jumped twice, which I'm guessing is probably 2 less than you did.
No, I didn't jump at any of them. Like, I may have had a slight shudder, but because for me to really jump, there has to be like some tension going on. There wasn't. I was just like, okay, we're fighting now. All right.
And so go back to the Marvel thing. Marvel is one of the things I think they do really well. They go get a director that can direct whatever type of movie they're trying to tell. They get these, because the Marvel movies, which you got, they did the same thing, gave Patty Jenkins Wonder Woman, and we're like, here, go for it.
Yeah.
I thought that worked really well. You kind of have to get somebody that's in charge, put them down, go, here, go for it. But then, I don't know if it's Jeff Johns for DC, but Marvel has Kevin Feige, who's also there to go, no, that doesn't fit the Marvel universe. No, that's not true to our characters. And to kind of rein them back a little bit. And I think that's a good mix. We got a guy that can do it, and let's just, keep him on track without being super, no, you can't.
Yeah, just keep him steered in the right direction. Well, do y'all have anything else on Aquaman?
Nope.
Who wants to go first on the streaming option? I liked it. It was fun. But if you don't want Under the Sea fun, or maybe a different Under the Sea fun, that same kind of rip-roaring, rollicking good time, what do you got for a streaming option?
I'll let you go first.
I do not have one.
Ha!
All right, you go first.
Okay. Like I said, there was such a mix of things that it was kind of hard for me to coalesce it down to one thing that felt right. So I'm kind of going with the combination of a little bit of family drama, which they had that.
Yeah.
The kind of brothers against each other. And the kind of reluctant king, sort of. Not in Aquaman, it wasn't so much fulfilling a prophecy, just, his mom's hopes. But I'm going with The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, which I think is a weird, like, out-of-the-way pick, but it kind of had, one, a really great soundtrack, they both did. And then The Reluctant King and the secret world, it was in a wardrobe instead of under the sea, but, kind of, it just gave me a similar vibe. If I had to pick one, I like the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe better, but they're both good.
Nah, Aquaman was better.
Fight!
So I'm going to go with Guardians of the Galaxy.
Hey!
It's another superhero movie, and it's a Marvel movie, I know. But at the same time, you got that main character, and Chris Pratt also does that smarmy, like, whatever type thing really well. And I got kind of the same feel. It had that kind of lighthearted, even though, there's these terrible stakes and the world's coming to an end, still a lot of lighthearted and fun characters with lots of explosions and things blowing up, and it is really the same feeling from both those. I say Guardians of the Galaxy.
All right, I think I'm just going to go simple here and go with basically any King Arthur movie you can think of.
Just because they're named Arthur doesn't mean
it does make it easy, but we'll go with Excalibur because that's probably the best of them.
That's my favorite.
And in our TV talk segment today, we are talking Netflix movie Buster Scruggs.
list.
What'd y'all think?
The Ballad of Buster
The
Scruggs.
Ballad of Buster Scruggs.
All right, I'm a sucker for anything Coen Brothers, so I was in heaven. It was
Yeah.
great.
No, when you remember, as soon as I saw they were doing it, I'm like, I'm in. I must see this movie. It's gonna be great. And it was kind of weird, a lot weird, even for them, which is kind of saying something because they do weird. That's their thing. They have their own style, and
It's kind of sort of a Western.
sorta.
It's set in the West.
It's
what, 6?
6 independent stories, just kind of back to back, and they're not really related at all. Maybe some themes, but
Yeah, they're not
Kind of
connected
a
on.
loose Western anthology.
I think somebody dies in just about every one. So
It's Coen Brothers.
it's set in the West and people die. So
I did. At some point, about 3 in, I was waiting for the tie
like some kind of
to happen.
remake.
Yeah,
Nope.
So I think I would have liked it more if I had known that because I was looking for that.
Right, and then
And I'm like, how is this going to relate to these other ones? But they're not. They're just like 6 little short films.
yeah.
And that being said, some of them I loved. Some of the little short stories were great. Some of them were okay. There was none I hated. There was none.
I think everybody agreed the Wagon Train, whether you loved it or hated it, was slow.
The Wagon Train
It
was
took
slow.
forever. I liked it, but it was slow.
I thought that was good. It starts off with Buster Scruggs as a gunfighter, and it's Tim Blake Nelson, and it's just,
He's just singing his song, and it's got like every whimsical Western cliche I can think of, where it's the cowboy, and he's got the guitar, and he's just on alone, and the
Dressed
other,
in
all
white.
in
dressed in white, and with the like dangly stuff, and it's like, wow, it's not quite Roy Rogers, but
Pretty
along
close,
that
yeah.
vein.
and it was over the top violent, and he did it with a smile on his face and a song in his heart the entire
Yeah,
time.
he really did. Literally, the song came off his lips a couple of times too. It was
and I love that. And then there was one with James Franco, and he was basically branded a horse thief.
well, yeah, he was
Wrongly.
an outlaw, robbing the bank,
Yeah,
and
starts off as a bank robber, robbing Stephen Root, who plays the teller.
Yeah, that was great. His little armor plate and stuff.
hand shot,
Covered in pins.
hand shot.
And all of it, because it is the Coen Brothers, it's all it's a little irreverent, a little silly. Well, maybe not all of it.
Some of them were more silly than others.
but there was always some little element of over the topness or silliness to it.
No Country for Old Men was known for its silliness.
Yes, that's exactly what I remembered about it from when I watched it.
But hey, at least you did the sarcasm. Yeah.
I did. I always raise my hand for sarcasm.
But I enjoyed those two, and those were the two that started it off. I really enjoyed those two, and I really enjoyed the Prospector.
Old
Yes.
Gold Canyon.
Yes, that one was great.
Tom Waits plays this lonely prospector, and he's just digging for gold, kind of out in the middle of nowhere
Him and
by
his mule.
him and his mule. And but he's kind of a crotchety, cranky old man, and that one was really good.
As much as I liked it, that one had the one, to me, really questionable effects moment. The deer, like the buck up front. It was like, you couldn't have found a buck to go shoot in a field, and no, okay, whatever. But it was fine. It was a very small part of it. It just.
But I really enjoyed the storytelling. Well, I take that back. I really enjoyed the storytelling in The Prospector. I
Yes.
actually really enjoyed the storytelling in the James Franco, that one. I enjoyed the comedy in that one. I just love the visual style of Buster Scruggs, the first one.
Yeah.
Now, along with those, and I don't know how you feel, there was the Liam Neeson.
The meal ticket.
So
ticket.
creepy.
Yeah.
And
That one was kind of slow and sad and weird and creepy, but to me it was entertaining, even though it was slow and sad and weird and creepy.
But you could also tell that it was coming, what happened at the end,
Yeah.
too, throughout.
it's the bizarre macabre.
It built to it.
Like, you can't look away.
But I enjoyed that. But it was kind of a weird switch from like the raucous, like woohoo, good time to the woo. And but I did enjoy that. Then there was the wagon train, but I did really enjoy that one also because of the some really good acting in there, and it was a good story, and it was a little long, and I didn't really. I noticed the length, not in a why is it so long way, but I noticed the length of that one in comparative because the other ones were bam, 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 and then this one comes out. And,
But that also resulted in it being the most fleshed out of the ones, too.
That's true. You got a lot more in there. And then there was, how many more am I missing? There was the last one with the
The carriage ride, stagecoach ride.
Yeah, didn't care for that one. The very last one, I was like, eh.
It was
but
odd.
it was okay. It wasn't terrible,
It
but
felt like one of those where they're kind of like, hey, look, we're doing a thing here.
Yeah.
Doing a thing here. Like, I see you're doing a thing. Is it deeper than it looks? I don't know.
Brendan Gleeson's song was a highlight of that for me. I would not imagine him having this voice, but it was nice.
well, so a year or two ago, I watched Bone Tomahawk. I don't know if you ever seen Bone Tomahawk.
I have.
Which is a horror movie. And I spent the entire horror movie confused because I thought it was a Western. Kurt Russell, and he's got his big mustache. And things happen, and those things don't make sense. In horror movie context, they probably would have been there to be creepy or
Right.
whatever, but I thought I was just watching a Western until 3/4 of the way through this thing, and I'm like, this is a horror movie. And then stuff started to make sense. And I kind of felt the same way with the last one. I think it was supposed to be creepy,
Yeah.
but nothing had really, although the Liam Neeson one was a little creepy, nothing had been creepy up to that point.
Right.
And I'm like, everything had been kind of raucous and rip roar and woo, and I'm woo. I'm like, when's the woo come? And I didn't get any creepiness from it, and I think I probably should have, but it was because I didn't know what was coming.
I do wonder if they'd been in a different order, if we would have perceived it differently.
I'm sure the order play. I mean, I'm sure they.
I'm sure they picked it for a reason, but I don't know. Why not end on a lighter note than?
Well, see, and the first one with Buster Scruggs was my favorite, but if
Yeah.
that one hadn't have been first, I don't know if I would
You would
have
have known how to take it.
Well, yeah, and
after you've seen the creepy ones or whatever.
I don't know if I'd have watched the whole thing. I really don't.
No.
If like the Liam Neeson one had been first.
Oh gosh, yeah, that would have been a bad one.
Like,
Well, you put your best foot forward.
Well, no, and I'm not saying it was bad. It was just that was an emotionally draining
Right.
experience, and it's like, man, there's going to be 5 more of these. I don't think I can make it. Where the Buster Scruggs was like happy and lighthearted. So.
Yeah, a happy handshake. So.
And we discussed before I'd watched it that the wagon train one, the woman who rattles has a scene in it that's a whole lot like Black Hat Jack, the Joe Lansdale book. And I see what you meant. It's very
similar to it. And so the weirdest thing is I just read that book like 2 weeks before.
I read it about a week before you did.
And and so the ending of that wagon train one is way too similar to, and I don't know if that's just like a cowboy trope that's been used and and so it gets thrown around, but I mean it's very, 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 very similar to the ending of it. And that kind of off-put me a little bit. I think it would have been better if I'm like, I read this like 2 weeks ago. And so that off-put me. But overall, I thought it was a really good experience.
Definitely fun if you're not offended by the crazy violence and harsh language.
I like the crazy violence and harsh
It
language.
was definitely one of my favorite movies of the year.
All right, and in our trailer reaction segment, we're going to look at Arctic. Arctic. Maybe?
You think you were?
Maybe? Here we go.
It looks like a Star Wars movie.
Kind of does. Saying that because he was in a Star Wars movie?
No, it's Hoth.
Can you squeeze like this? Squeeze. Yeah, that's good. That's fine. Don't worry. They'll be here tomorrow. Or the day after tomorrow. Don't worry. She's running out of time. I have to find help. Hey! Yeah! It's okay. It's okay.
There's something missing here. I am missing based on a true story. That's what that needed.
I'm sure it's great, but it doesn't, there's nothing there. Like, there was nothing for me to go on. It's a survival story.
I'm a sucker for survival stories. I don't know. I mean, could be good, but I'd be more interested if it were based on a true story.
It doesn't matter to me one way or the other, but I don't know. It honestly, if you took the title off, it could have been any other. Expect Liam Neeson and wolves to come out at any second. It could have been any in the Frozen North. It may be a great movie, but the trailer just didn't do anything for me. It didn't. I don't know. It didn't show me anything.
Yeah, it happens.
Hate comments below.